Okay.
So let's pick this up when you get past the core drills and you begin to go into the leadership team.
Okay.
Most groups really want to know more about their leadership, what makes them tick,
Okay.
humanize them a bit by having some fun with a couple of the individuals that you know ahead of time that you can have fun with. And so that then leads to your going into the portal and making sure you have access to the group badge chart for the senior leader team that
I
you
have that.
okay. All
I
right.
have all the badge charts.
So the fact that they don't have these means that you'll need to create these as part of your slide deck.
Okay.
And the slide deck, you may just want a couple of the introduction to the Clifton Strengths slides in there. And then the core key, of course, if
Right.
they don't have a copy, they should have a copy in their coaching packet.
Oh yeah, no, they all of them so far have had that in there. It's a basic in the coaching packet.
Okay, great. So now you've got the leadership team, which you'll be talking and just basically going through the leadership by alphabet, just the way the group badge chart is.
Okay.
And talk about, and I typically remind them, okay, here's what you see, here's so and so, they're a lifeline, and what are some things you notice right away about this profile, to again begin to get some group interaction, and just look for one or two observations. And I go into number one, the signature talent, reinforce the core drill, look at any particular talents that are interesting in there, like they might have command or competition, or in this particular one I'm looking at, empathy is the signature talent. That means they can read you well, and so going through those different ones, one of the principles is a
Guru.
one's a guru, one's an optimizer,
Yep.
one's a force of nature,
Yep.
a couple are sages.
Yep.
I don't know if you've got a few that are lifelines. And
There's, 3 lifelines, a force of nature, an optimizer, and a guru.
okay, very good. So lots of fun you'll have going through those talents again and helping them understand. And again, you're humanizing these individuals, providing some rules of engagement, especially if there's things you've heard that, people have challenges with, making sure that somebody really listens, or really being able to understand what somebody's thinking, or somebody moves faster than you're wanting to move, whatever it is. Another thing you can do too, depending on how comfortable you feel on your feet, is I'll have them take a few groups and look at their profiles once you've had, and pick somebody that you have a big question about. And this is kind of the magic trick thing again. You get people saying, okay, who did you pick? What's your big question? Or what's most interesting about this person based on what we've gone through? And what's your biggest question about this person? And those are fun too to do. So how many do you have? Would you have 7 on the senior leader team?
On the senior team, there's 6.
6. So you're gonna have a comfortable pace getting through all of them. And that then leads to, so what you've done is you've talked about the Clifton strengths. You've given some insight as to why they're valuable. You've indicated that this is really about becoming self-aware and appreciating and understanding unique differences of others. You've walked through uh, the different energy, where the energy comes from, engaging with people, being on your own, pushing things forward, uh, reflecting and advising. You've gone through the leadership archetypes with them.
Right.
Uh, Now, before you move from the leadership archetypes, because there's only 6 people, so there's,
Right.
I think, 12 archetypes in the list, I think.
I think there's actually 15 total, including the ones that have never happened before.
Yeah, but they don't have those. Like they don't
Oh,
have
you mean, yeah, I think I
on
counted.
the master sheet. I think there's 12.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, yeah. In all of Fox. Yes, 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 yes. I think it is 12.
In the master sheet, I think there's 12.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've run across three all blues so far. And we call those Smurfs,
Mm-hmm.
just as a nickname. Uh, and and those are with a construction firm. All three of them are in the same construction firm, which is weird. And then
Yeah.
I've never run across 5 oranges or 5 magentas.
I think what's his name? Just ran into 5 magentas. That's a charismatic. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
What's his name out in California? Bert.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
I think Bert. Yeah, I think Bert said I got the first one in the database.
Very cool. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. It's like finding an extinct species or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Dinosaur. I don't know.
So before you move on, what you would like to go through is have people raise questions. Are there any of the archetypes you would like me to unpack for you that we didn't talk about? Or if you have time, you can get people together to compare their one sheeter, that one sheet page they have on their archetype.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so one of the exercises that we do, if there's time, is to go through and pick 2 sentences out of there that best capture what that's like. And then share in groups of 3. Share your 2 sentences and why you picked that. And then if you have, again, depending on time and how it's pacing, you can have some of the people report out, what did you learn, what was interesting, and then you open the door to, so let's talk about the archetypes that we didn't cover. So here's where homework comes in. You know which archetypes you've covered on the leadership team.
Okay, so far I haven't covered, I'm trying to think of what we've already been through. I haven't covered the core drills specifically yet until I get to the leadership team, right?
Right.
So now I've done the 4.
Well, we did the core drills as the leadership team. So we're backing up a bit.
All right, I'm confused. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
I'm just trying to go back to what we talked about earlier. I haven't talked about archetypes before we got to the leadership team, because we've had the key. So we walked through the key, left, right, bottom, top.
And then after that, and you can re-listen to the first part. After that, then we go into archetypes.
Right.
And what are archetypes? But we do it through the leadership team.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we do the lifeline, force of nature, optimizer, guru. So there's only 4.
Okay. So that means that you will need to do 2 pieces of homework.
Okay.
One is to go through and count, make sure you count the number of people in the company that have the other archetypes that we didn't cover.
Yeah, I've got that somewhere. Yeah.
And give them some feel of what they look like compared to the rest of the world, because we have percentages in the database of each one.
Sure.
So you're giving them some relative understanding that, oh, gee, we're lifeline heavy, or we're lifeline light, or we're stabilizer heavy or stabilizer light.
Yep. The individual group has a lot of forces of nature, I noticed.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so those are interesting observations, and then you talk a little bit about the so what. Why is this significant?
Yeah.
Now, that then leads to once we've gone through that and you've gone through all of the core drills or the archetypes, and there's some understanding, you've had them play with it a little bit with some dialogue, that's when you go into the group badge of just the leadership team.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier at this point, you asked, are there any archetypes you want me to cover that I haven't yet covered, right?
Well, what we're doing is you're going to cover all of them, because I'm assuming that within a group of this size, they're all there.
So I'm going to do the 12. I'm going to do the 12. Okay.
Assuming they're all in there. Yeah. Again, you can look through and just make a note that, okay, we've covered these 4. Here are the next
to
cover. You may not have any pace setters in there.
I do.
Okay. So you probably have all.
I got a pace setter.
You have an old Mario. You have optimizers.
Yep. Gurus.
Yep. So you've got.
And I have a couple of the diagonal ones.
Yeah, the super drivers and the thought.
I got a super driver. I got.
Thought rockets.
I don't know if I have a thought rocket.
Oh, you got to in an architectural firm.
Super driver.
No thought rockets, huh? Interesting.
I think I've seen a thought rocket.
Okay. Well, no matter. So, whatever there is on the list that you haven't covered, you're going to cover those.
Cover remainder of the Fox archetypes. Okay.
And so part of the way I do that is when you list one, and again, as you're going through the principles with their archetypes,
right?
You ask everybody, raise your hand if you have this kind of archetype.
Okay.
And so again, people are visually seeing, how many are there, or you can have them stand up or whatever.
So as I introduce them with the principles, I'll say, who else has this, right?
Right.
Okay, got it.
Now you're going into the rest of the people who, and their archetypes. And again, you'll ask people, let's talk about super drivers. How many super drivers are there? And say, oh, wow, there's only a couple. So that shows you that these individuals are specialists, and this is what their specialty is. And this is why they're important, and this is what they bring to the table. And that's the same dialogue with all of the archetypes. Lifelines, there's lots of them, and they tend to be the backbone of an organization. They're the hidden leaders, the people behind the scenes, the unsung heroes, the stabilizers. They tend to intuitively understand how the team is working and functioning. They see the gaps. They love to fill gaps. They either fill the gap or bring someone in to fill the gap. They can speak all languages, so they help translate. If you've got somebody who doesn't have any blue, someone with a lot of blue, and they're not translating well, a stabilizer is a great bridge between those two. So helping people
they're not toxic and undermining everyone, putting holes in the boat.
Well, but we don't go there first. And yeah. And so understanding what these look like at their best is what this initial understanding is.
Right.
At the end, you'll talk about the shadow side and the collisions. And that's something we don't have time to do.
Right.
But they need to understand that. And you probably will just pick one example of each. Here's a good example. Here's my shadow side. Here's what I can look like under pressure. Here's what people tell me and give me feedback. Here's the language they use to give me feedback.
Sure.
I always use the story about my strategic and achiever, that I tend to outdrive my headlights, that I get ahead of myself. I know where I'm going, but nobody else does. And here's the rules of engagement people use to slow me down in my own organization.
Yeah, Kurt's really good at this part because, he'll be there as well. So, he's really good at talking about his trailblazer and feedback he gets.
Yeah. Remember in this, though, at these peripheral things, less is more. So part of coaching with Kurt is, it's the Billy Crystal mantra with City Slickers with Curly. Remember Curly holding up his finger?
One word.
One thing.
One thing.
One thing. Yeah.
One thing.
One example of this. One example of that.
One thing.
At least at this stage for those next step things.
Right.
Because the goal is not to throw everything we got out on them. The goal is to give them that foundation and make them interested to go deeper.
Right. Right.
And give them enough where they can begin working with the rudimentary parts on their own.
Right.
So now you're rolling into hour number 3, and you've covered a lot of ground. There's high energy. Then I pull out the summary statistics sheet and begin to help understand specific talents by starting with the top and working down top 10. Maybe you get to the top 10.
So up to this point, we haven't really covered talents other than in the context of the core drills and the key and all that. We haven't gotten real specific. We haven't done the 5 bullet points and all of that.
No, you haven't. And so they're getting framework for that. You've done some of that with the principles, of course, and unpacking so you've got 6 people with 5 talents. So there's a good chance you've covered, 15 talents in that conversation within the context of the individual.
Right.
You've talked about signature talent. You've talked about clusters of talents, 2 oranges, 2 greens. You've helped them see what we've talked about in context of the core drill, but now you're seeing the specific talents. And I like to talk about that the archetypes or the core drills get us into the neighborhood. When we start getting into specific talents and looking at signature talent, clusters of talents, now we're getting into the living room and getting more granular.
I like it. Good analogy.
And so now we're at that point where these talents now have some context behind them where people can understand. So in the chart that I have, I don't know if you've got the same one, but achiever is the number 1.
Yeah.
So
do you have a master list? Because I don't have a master. I only have the 4 groups separately, which I can certainly
just send a note to Tanya. Just send a note to Tanya. I want the entire company database charts.
Okay.
So in this particular one, I've got, you've got the talent listed, then you've got the DB %, which you explain is the global database.
I have a question for you because I got asked this at NSS because I was talking about the statistics I was sharing were the CoreClarity database, and they said, well, we understood this to be the Gallup database. Isn't that a much larger database? I said, all the statistics that we offer are the CoreClarity database. The overlap and the consistency and the correlation to the Gallup database is like over 98 or 99%. So
yeah, I mean, there's.
But isn't that correct? We're using the CoreClarity database. Okay.
Yeah, it's the CoreClarity database.
Right.
We do know the.
Who do you think asked me that question?
I don't know, John Ward or.
Yeah.
So you can, the percentage of the talents you can get on some of the research papers that Gallup offers, the metadata offers. The CoreClarity database is large enough, it's a 15-year database that, 50, 60, 100,000, I don't know. I've got 15,000 in just by myself. Kurt's got 12,000. And so with numbers like that, you're going to even out and reflect the global database.
Sorry for that. I just wanted to verify that I was given the right information because they really came at me hard. I'm like, no, but don't worry because the correlation is so high, it doesn't really matter because it's still 100,000. There's at least 100,000 in this database, so
right.
It's going to be
Yeah. So the significance now, the top talents within the group, there tends to be kind of the default behavior of an organization or a team.
Okay.
And now that if it's an intact, contiguous team, then those numbers are matter. If it's a distributed team, then they have, of course, less effect. And so then I don't spend so much time on the team aggregate data. Uh, but with an organization that's in the same building with the teams that are contiguous, it has a lot of effect.
Okay.
And and so looking at the team dynamic, what you're able to show is what this group, where this group's natural strengths are, where their default behavior tends to be, where their blind spots might be. And so the top 8 to 10 talents of a group or a team, a group this large, it's definitely the top 10. A smaller team, 5, 6, or 7, because um, you know, just the way you don't have a high impact on those lower those talents that fall outside the top 5 or 7. They're really dropping off.
Yeah, the individual group really followed the others pretty strongly. I mean, pretty strongly. They weren't terribly different. So, achiever, strategic learner, futuristic, restorative, individualization. And you go all the way down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah,
8,
every
9.
talent is represented in here.
Yeah.
So,
Their top 10 is pretty strong.
well, and C, it goes from 47% to 29%, 25%, and then it drops off. At responsibility, you're falling under 20% of the group has that. Um, and so again, you're looking at where the distribution really is a default influence on the group.
Yep.
Now, the other part of the homework is looking at any major differences between specific groups.
Yeah.
Production group, the marketing group, whatever it is, because each of them will have their own fingerprint within the company. You won't have time to go deeply into that, but you plant the seed of looking at each department's distinctions and then how they interact with the other teams or how they differ with the other teams. Just like an individual would, they're going to have natural synergies and natural collisions.
I never looked at the stats from base building and interiors because I've always been dealing with the leadership groups as the separate groups, but that would be an interesting thing to go back and look at to see if there's anything significant there.
Well, and there's a good
They're
exercise.
now being put together.
There's a good exercise down the road where you take those team pyramids and you make a fictitious individual's name, Sally and Joe, and you have the group talk about what are the similarities, what are the difference, what are the potential collisions, and what are the rules of engagement that the group comes up with. And then the next slide is, it's interiors and base building, because I know they've had collisions. So it would be a good seed plant, if you have time, to put in Sally and Joe and go through that and say, you've just helped understand why there's some natural collisions between these groups.
Right.
And you've already worked through some of the progress. Again, time permitting, and this may be a follow-up, but every time I've used that with two groups that are at odds with each other, it's been huge ahas, because you take away, they think they're dealing with two individuals that are fictitious individuals, and then all of a sudden they find out, oh, this is our group. This is accounting and sales. This is engineering and marketing, whatever it is. And it's a great bridge builder. So you get through some of these talents. You have people raise their hands. If you have time, you break them again into groups of 3 with their laminated pyramid, and then have them pick their signature talent. Pick the one bullet point they think describes what that talent looks like on their best day. They share it with the group and socialize it. And then you bring the group back after a good 7-8 minute energy conversation. You ask for a few takeaways. What did people take away? A few questions. And then to roll it up, you want at least 30 minutes to talk about where do we go from here? What are some things you can do? And I typically start out with the coaching packet.
Right.
And the your best self exercise, the laminated pyramid, and taking what they did for their signature talent, taking that one bullet point, and now having them go all the way through the rest of the talents, creating, putting those 5 single sentences together from all 5 talents, putting it into a paragraph, wordsmithing the paragraph, and then at their next team meeting, we're doing 2 things. One, putting it, posting it in their office or their workstation so they can look at it every day, that paragraph. That's called psycho-cybernetics, visualizing a word picture of what you look like on your best.
Right.
And then taking time first, within their teams, the 3 different times to socialize. First, signature talent, what it looks like on your best day, and then people giving feedback. A month later, they go through in their teams and talk about what energizes them and what drains them and what talents that those are reflecting. Then month 3, they go around in their weekly meeting, and a couple people a meeting get to share their best self description. And that's extremely powerful to get through that with them and pace them. 1 month, your team, each meeting a couple people share. The next month is this one. The 3rd month is your best self exercise.
Good. It's funny. I do something similar to that. I usually do the self-reflection exercise 30 days and the gain drain 30 days, in terms of just to have an exercise and then to share it. But the paragraph thing is powerful.
Yeah, that's to me, that is the most powerful thing because of how your mind, it's like what athletes do. They visualize perfect performance. So if you see those 5 sentences as a description of perfect performance, what they look like on their best day. And so month 1, they have it. It's just what I call the color by number. Just pick the bullet point, do it verbatim, put it together in a paragraph, clean up the paragraph a little bit so it flows the way you like it. Month 2 is to go back now, having observed and felt these talents in action, and even go into the Strength Finder 2.0 book and picking sentences, but make this a more customized paragraph in month 2. Post it in front of your workstation, read it once a day. And then month 3, you come back and you don't use any tools, you just rewrite it yourself. That's a 90-day process of embedding a GPS system. I used to say gyroscope, but you've implanted in your brain what a perfect day looks like for you, or what you look like at your best in your brain. And automatically your brain efforts and energy begin to navigate towards that. And you begin picking up subtle cues in and how you approach things, or what you might delegate, or how you team and how you partner, or what you say yes to and what you say no to. It is the most powerful of all of the exercises we do.
Let me make sure I can recite this, because I wrote down gain or drain at some point, and I think I know how to use that. So the first thing you do is 30 days out. In your first 30 days, you take whichever bullet from each talent is the most resonant with you, and then you construct a paragraph with your 5 talents with your most important bullet from each. Do it pretty much verbatim. Don't worry too much about a whole lot. Just make sure you get it down, post it. Then maybe you do a gain or drain exercise, refine it 30 days after that. And then 30 days after that, rewrite it and refine it further. Is that what you're saying?
So
I'm missing something there, I think.
So it is the color by number, and it's literally the my best self exercise in the coaching packet. So they just follow those instructions. Throughout the time, you will have done the gain or drain exercise.
Right.
You will probably done the self-reflection exercise.
Right.
I like to pace sharing it with the team over a 3-month period of time. So the first thing you share with the team is the signature talent.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm assuming that it's going to take a month because you can't spend the whole meeting, everybody just doing that. So if you pace it a couple people a week over the month, everybody will get through their signature talent. Month 2, so this is separate than the writing it, the paragraph and visualizing it every day. Month 2 with the team is then sharing the gain or drain, your work on the gain or drain exercise. Now, behind the scenes, you've done the color by number self-reflection, my best self exercise that you've been looking at every day. Month 2, you go back and take more language from StrengthsFinder 2.0, from your self-reflection, from your gain or drain, and you rewrite the paragraph with this new knowledge or new insight.
Rewrite paragraph with new insights.
Right.
That's second 30 days.
Right.
Okay.
And so you're still making the rounds in your team, just doing those 3 things, the signature talent, the gain or drain. But in the 3rd month, everybody shares their paragraph on what they look like at their best. And now they've written it the 3rd time without using any tools, just experience and having embedded this. If we could get every company just to do that exercise, this 90-day thing, and it's really easy, and we make it, we pace it so that it's an adequate pace, that will transform a company. That'll change an individual. And so that you're going through this in that last 30 minutes, you're going through these 4 pieces: what the individual does over 90 days, and what the team does each 30 days in socializing signature talent, socializing gain or drain, and then socializing the my best self, that paragraph.
Okay.
Okay.
Easy for you to say.
I've done it hundreds of times.
I know.
It is. It's
I know.
nature.
I know. It's mastery. Some of this, I have a degree of mastery in some of this. Um,
Yeah.
but
So,
the way the pieces are put together for this kind of session is, I gotta,
well, here's what I would do. I would get with Kurt. First of all,
that's not
uh,
easy.
we will we will record these. We will get these recorded and put them on Basecamp for you to use. Um, the second thing is walk through where you and Kurt will, where you feel strongest,
Yeah,
where you'd like Kurt to help you. Kurt's masterful in the off script, ad lib, improv type of thing. And
yes, he is.
and so you're going to be really good at the content, but it just takes time
Yeah,
with different groups to be able to feel fully comfortable and stay within your comfort zone on this. Just
sure.
figure out what you're going to be most comfortable doing. Let Kurt know the part that you're going to be most comfortable with. Uh, try, try to only use the slides as cues for the audience, not
Right,
things for you to look. Do not read the slides. Have
right.
it up there. Have your own version of what's on top of the slides. Uh, and if you're doing that, then it's going to feel natural and comfortable
Sure.
with the group.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I don't really need the content in the slides to speak. It's just, you have to have the key up there. And I've got slides that show the top half, left, bottom, which is nice for visual. When I did my first unpack, I think I used 3 slides the entire time. This last time with the half day with I call them the emerging leaders. I used a lot of slides because there was a lot of content, and I
Hey,
was
Gary, hold on
not
a second.
sure.
I've got a catered order that I think it just arrived.
Go ahead.
This Rex Miller. Okay, just leave it at the front desk and I'll pick it up. Leave it at the front desk of the hotel and I will pick it up. Or do you need me to come down and sign? Okay, all right.